The armor weighed 60 pounds, but Jake Morrison had stopped noticing it years ago. It had become a second skin to him, black and silver metal that covered every inch of his body from head to toe. The helmet had a dark visor that no one could see through. Inside, he could breathe recycled air, monitor his heart rate, and watch the world through cameras that showed him everything in perfect detail. For 3 years, he had not taken it off in front of anyone. Not once. Jake stood at his post in the corridor of the Eternal Grace, the royal flagship of the Volante Dominion. The ship was massive, built from white crystal and silver metal that seemed to glow from within. Everything about it was beautiful in a cold, perfect way. The Volante liked beautiful things. They believed beauty was the highest form of civilization. 2 Volante nobles walked past him without a glance. They were tall, over 8 feet, with blue skin that gave off a soft light. Their silver eyes looked like liquid metal, and their hair moved slowly, even when there was no wind, like it was floating underwater. They wore robes of shimmering fabric and spoke in voices that sounded like music. They did not look at Jake because he was beneath their notice. To them, he was just another hired soldier, one of the faceless mercenaries that protected their empire. The Volante did not fight their own wars. They paid others to do it for them. Jake watched them go and said nothing. That was his job. Watch, listen, report, and above all, keep the secret. No one in the Volante Dominion knew that humans existed. Earth had discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago, and in that time, humanity had learned one important lesson. The galaxy was old, and the species that lived in it did not welcome newcomers. Young races were conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. So humanity had decided to hide. Human agents wore full armor at all times. They worked as mercenaries, traders, and mechanics across a dozen alien empires. They watched and learned and sent information back to Earth, and they waited for the day when humanity would be strong enough to reveal itself. Jake had been assigned to this Eternal Grace 6 months ago. His mission was to observe the Volante royal family and report on their military capabilities. It was boring work most days. He stood in corridors, walked patrol routes, and listened to nobles complain about things that did not matter. But then there was the princess. Zintara Velshani was the third daughter of the Volante Emperor. She was young by their standards, only 200 years old. She had the same blue skin and silver eyes as the others, but there was something different about her. She looked at people when she spoke to them. She asked questions and actually listened to the answers. She smiled at servants and thanked guards for their service. The first time she spoke to Jake, he'd been standing outside the royal gardens for 6 hours. She walked past him, then stopped and turned back. "You have been here all day," she said. Her voice was soft, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Do you not tire?" Jake kept his body still. The voice modulator in his helmet made his words come out low and mechanical. "I am fine, Your Highness." "You never remove your helmet," she said. "I have noticed this." The other soldiers take breaks, show their faces, talk with each other. But you stand alone, always covered. "My oath requires it, Your Highness." She tilted her head, studying him with those silver eyes. "What species are you?" "I do not recognize your armor design." Jake had prepared for this question. "I am from a small world in the outer territories. My people are few and not well known." "Interesting," she said. She did not press further, but Jake could tell she was not satisfied with the answer. She was curious. That could be dangerous. Over the following weeks, Jake noticed that she passed by his post more often than necessary. Sometimes she would nod to him. Sometimes she would speak a few words. He answered in short, careful sentences, never giving her more than he had to, but he found himself looking forward to those moments. He told himself it was just because she was different from the other Volante. She treated him like a person instead of a piece of furniture. That was all. Lord Vorth, the head of security, called Jake to his office one morning. Vorth was old and scarred, one of the few Volanti who had actually fought in wars himself. He looked at Jake with hard eyes. "You have impressed me," Vorth said. "You work harder than any soldier I have seen. You never complain, never cause problems, never fail your duties. I am assigning you to the princess's personal guard." Jake felt something twist in his chest. Being closer to the princess meant more risk of exposure. It also meant more time with her. "I am honored," he said through the modulator. Vorth waved a hand. "Do not fail me. The princess is precious to the emperor. If anything happens to her, we all die." Jake took up his new position the next day. He stood outside her chambers, walked behind her through the ship, watched over her during meals and meetings. He was her shadow, silent and constant. She noticed the change immediately. "So, you are mine now," she said one evening. Standing on an observation deck with stars stretching out beyond the transparent walls. "My own personal guardian. I serve at Lord Vord's command," Jake replied. "But you protect me." She turned to face him. The light from a nearby nebula painted her skin in shades of pink and gold. "Tell me, soldier, do you have a name? Or should I simply call you Shadow?" He hesitated. Names were personal. Names created connections. But he could not refuse a direct question from a princess. "Jake," he said. "My name is Jake." She repeated it, testing the strange sound on her tongue. "Jake, that is unusual." "I like it." She smiled at him then, and Jake felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt seen, even through the armor, even through the helmet and the modulator. She was looking at him like he was real. It was dangerous. He knew it was dangerous, but he could not make himself look away. "I think we shall become good friends, Jake," the princess said. "Whether you like it or not." She turned back to the stars, and Jake stood beside her in silence, watching the light play across her face and wondering how he was going to survive this mission with his cover and his heart intact in his helmet. A message flashed from Lieutenant Commander Nicole Patterson back on Earth. "Status report required." He ignored it. The report could wait. Right now, he was exactly where he needed to be. The weeks turned into months, and Jake Morrison learned more about Princess Zinthara than any intelligence report could have told him. He learned that she hated formal dinners because the nobles only talked about themselves. He learned that she loved watching stars being born in distant nebulas. He learned that she read old books about Volanthi history and wished she had lived in a time when her people were explorers instead of rulers. He also learned that she was lonely. The Volanthi did not understand loneliness. They lived for thousands of years, surrounded by servants and admirers. But Zinthara was different. She wanted real connection, real conversation, real friendship. And somehow, she had decided that Jake was the one who would give it to her. "You are a good listener," she told him one night. They were in her private garden, a room filled with glowing plants from a dozen different worlds. "Most people wait for their turn to speak. You actually hear what I say." Jake stood at attention near the door, his hands clasped behind his back. "It is my duty to be attentive, Your Highness. Stop that." She frowned at him. "Stop hiding behind duty and protocol. When we are alone, I want you to speak to me like a person, not a machine. I'm not sure I know how to do that anymore." The words came out before he could stop them. They were true, and that made them dangerous. 3 years in armor had changed him. He had spent so long being silent and invisible that he had almost forgotten how to be anything else. Zinthara walked closer to him. She was tall enough that her eyes were level with the top of his helmet. She reached out and touched the cold metal of his chest plate, right over where his heart was beating too fast. "Then learn again," she said softly. "For me." Jake did not answer, but something shifted inside him that night. He started talking more. Not much, not at first, but enough. He told her about battles he had fought, though he changed the details to hide his true origins. He described planets he had visited, careful to mention only ones that other species would know. He even made her laugh once, with a story about a drunk Kethmari warrior who had tried to fight his own reflection. Her laugh was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Patterson contacted him every week for his reports. She was stationed at a hidden Earth base 3 star systems away, monitoring all human agents in Volante space. "Your reports are getting shorter," she said, during one encrypted transmission. Jake was alone in his small quarters, the only place on the ship where he could safely remove his helmet. "And you are spending a lot of time with the princess." She requested a personal guard. "I cannot refuse without raising suspicion." "Jake," Nicole's voice was careful, the way people spoke when they were worried. "Do not get attached. These are not our people. When the mission ends, you walk away. I know. Do you? Because your biometric data shows increased heart rate every time you are near her. Your stress hormones spike when she is in danger. Those are not the signs of a professional doing his job." Jake stared at his own face in the mirror. He looked older than he remembered. There were dark circles under his green eyes, and his brown hair was longer than regulations allowed. He had not seen sunlight in 3 years. "I have it under control," he said. Nicole sighed. "I hope so. Because if you blow your cover, it is not just you who suffers. Every human agent in Volante space becomes a target. Earth becomes a target. Do you understand?" "Yes, Commander. I understand." He ended the transmission and put his helmet back on. The familiar weight settled onto his shoulders, and he was the Iron Shadow again, silent, faceless, safe. But the safety felt more like a prison every day. The Lanti court moved to a different ship for a diplomatic meeting with the Kovathi, a reptilian species that controlled several resource-rich systems. Princess Indara was required to attend, and Jake went with her. The Kovathi were not like the Volante. They were short and thick, covered in green scales, with yellow eyes that never blinked. They smelled like sulfur and spoke in harsh, barking tones. The Volante considered them ugly and crude, that they needed Kovathi metals for their ships. Jake stood behind the princess during the negotiations, watching everything. The Kovathi ambassador kept glancing at him with obvious curiosity. "That one," the ambassador said, pointing a clawed finger at Jake. "What is he?" "I do not recognize the armor," Lord Vorath answered before Jake could speak. "A mercenary from the outer territories. He is the best soldier I have ever employed. Is that so?" The ambassador's eyes narrowed. "I have heard stories about a warrior called the Iron Shadow. They say he killed 20 Kethmari raiders by himself on the Pale Moon." Jake remembered that fight. It had been 23, actually, but he was not going to correct anyone. "Stories grow in the telling," he said through his modulator. The ambassador laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "I like this one. He is modest. That is rare for someone with such a reputation." After the meeting, Zintara found Jake standing on an observation deck. She came to stand beside him, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her body through his armor's sensors. "You are famous," she said. "The Iron Shadow. Even the Kovathi know your name. Names do not matter, only actions, and your actions have saved many lives." She turned to look at him. "How many times have you risked yourself for others, Jake? How many battles have you fought while everyone else ran away?" He did not answer. The number was higher than he wanted to think about. "You are a good person," she continued. I know you try to hide it behind silence and duty, but I see it. I see you. You see armor, Jake said. You do not know what is underneath. Then show me. The words hung in the air between them. Jake felt his heart pounding in his chest, so loud that he was sure she could hear it. I cannot. Why not? Because I am human. Because my people are hiding from the galaxy. Because if you knew what I was, everything would fall apart. Because some secrets are not mine to share, he said instead. I am sorry, Your Highness. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his armored hand in her blue fingers. The sensors in his gloves let him feel the pressure of her touch, but not the warmth. Never the warmth. One day, she said, you will trust me enough to tell me the truth. And on that day, whatever you show me, whatever you are, I will not turn away. I promise you that. Jake looked at her face, at the silver eyes that held no judgment. Only kindness and curiosity, and something that might have been love. You should not make promises you cannot keep. Your Highness, I never do. She squeezed his hand and smiled. Now come. There's a nebula forming in the next system, and I want to watch it with you. She walked away and Jake followed, as he always did. As he was starting to fear he always would dot in his helmet, another message flashed from Nicole. He deleted it without reading. Some things were more important than reports. The attack came from nowhere. One moment, the eternal grace was gliding through the pale nebula, its crystal hull catching the light of 1 billion distant stars. The next moment, alarms were screaming, and the ship was shaking from explosions that ripped through its lower decks. Jake was already moving before the first alarm finished sounding. He grabbed his rifle from its mount on the wall and ran toward the princess's chambers. His boots pounding against the metal floor. Volante guards were running in every direction, their elegant faces twisted with fear. They had never faced a real attack before. The eternal grace was supposed to be untouchable, protected by the might of the Dominion. But someone had not gotten that message. Jake reached the princess's door and found her already outside, surrounded by 4 guards. Her silver eyes were wide but steady. She was scared, but she was not panicking. What is happening? She demanded. HFY, Jake said. He had seen the attack signatures on his helmet display. At least 12 ships. They are boarding us now. That is impossible. We are in protected space. They do not seem to care, Your Highness. A Volante officer ran up to them, his robes torn and his face bleeding. Princess, you must get to the escape shuttles. The main deck is lost. They are everywhere. Jake checked his tactical map. The HFY had cut through the ship's defenses like a knife through soft fruit. They were already on 6 different decks, killing everything they found. The path to the shuttle bay was blocked by at least 2 enemy squads. Stay behind me, he told the princess. Do exactly what I say. Do not stop for anything. She nodded, and Jake started moving. The first HFY they encountered was waiting at the end of a corridor. It was 7 feet tall, covered in black armor that looked like an insect shell. It had 4 arms, each one holding a different weapon. Its face was hidden behind a mask that showed only 2 burning red eyes. Jake shot it before it could raise its weapons. 3 rounds to the head, 1 to the chest. It fell and did not get up. The Volante guards stared at him in shock. They had never seen anyone move that fast. Keep moving, Jake ordered. They made it another 100 meters before the next attack. 5 HFY came around a corner, plasma rifles already firing. Jake pushed the princess behind a support pillar and returned fire. 2 of the guards went down immediately, their beautiful blue bodies torn apart by enemy rounds. Jake killed 3 of the attackers in 4 seconds. The other 2 took cover, exchanging fire with him while trying to flank his position. His helmet display showed his ammunition count dropping. He had maybe 2 minutes before he ran out. "Jake!" the princess called from behind him. There are more coming from the other direction. He turned his head and saw them. A full squad, at least 10 warriors, moving toward them in tight formation. They were trapped. The 2 remaining Volanti guards looked at Jake with desperate eyes. They knew they were going to die. They had accepted it. But they were still scared. "Take the princess," Jake said. "There is a maintenance shaft 20 meters behind you. It leads to Deck 7. From there, you can reach the shuttle bay. What about you?" One of the guards asked. "I will hold them off." The princess grabbed his arm. "No, you will die. Maybe." He looked at her, wishing she could see his face through the helmet. "But you will live. That is what matters. Jake, please." He pulled away from her grip and stepped into the middle of the corridor. The Kethmari saw him and opened fire. Plasma rounds slammed into his armor, sending showers of sparks flying. The pain was immediate and intense, but Jake had felt worse. He had trained for worse. He started shooting. Nicole's voice crackled through his private comm. "Jake, what are you doing? Your vitals are spiking. You are taking too much damage. Busy right now, Commander." He killed the first wave of attackers, then the second. His rifle ran dry and he drew his sidearm. When that ran out, he pulled a combat knife from his belt and started fighting hand to hand. The Kethmari were strong, but they were not used to enemies who kept fighting after being shot. Jake took hits that would have killed any Volanti. He felt bones crack and blood start flowing inside his armor. But he did not stop. He could not stop. She was counting on him. "Jake, your combat metrics are impossible," Nicole said. "The Volanti are watching. They are recording everything. You are going to blow your cover. Let them watch," he growled, slamming his knife into a Kethmari's throat. "She is not dying today." He fought for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Bodies piled up around him, black shells and blue blood mixing on the floor. His armor was dented and scorched, warning lights flashing everywhere. He could barely see through the cracked display in his helmet. Finally, there were no more enemies. Jake stood in the middle of the corridor, swaying on his feet, surrounded by the dead. "Jake." The princess's voice came from behind him. She had not left. The guards had tried to drag her away, but she had refused to go. "You were supposed to run," he said. His voice was weak even through the modulator. "I do not run." She moved toward him. "Not from enemies. Not from you." A Kethmari warrior that Jake had thought was dead suddenly moved. It raised a plasma pistol and fired. Not at Jake, but at the princess. Jake did not think. He threw himself in front of her, taking the shot full in the back. The plasma burned through his damaged armor and into his flesh. He felt everything go white with pain. He landed hard on the floor. The princess screamed something, but he could not hear what. His helmet display was showing critical warnings in every direction. Armor integrity failed. Life support failing. Internal bleeding detected. Strong hands dragged him up. The princess was pulling him toward the shuttle bay, refusing to leave him behind, even though he was heavy, and she was not strong. Somehow, they made it. She got him into a shuttle and sealed the door behind them. Jake collapsed against the wall, smoke rising from his ruined armor. He could feel blood running down his back, pooling inside the suit. His vision was going dark at the edges. "You are hurt," Zintara said, kneeling beside him. "Remove your armor." "Let me help you." "Cannot," he managed. "Jake, you will die if I do not treat those wounds. Take off the armor, now." He tried to refuse again, but he did not have the strength. She was right. If he did not get out of the damaged suit, he would bleed out in the next few minutes. "If I show you," he said, struggling to form the words, what I really am, everything changes. You will not look at me the same way." She put her hands on either side of his helmet, her blue fingers gentle against the scorched metal. "I told you once that I would not turn away. I meant it." Her silver eyes found his through the cracked visor. "Whatever you are, whoever you are, I am not afraid. Show me." Jake took a breath that hurt more than anything he had ever felt. Then he reached up with shaking hands and started to remove his helmet. The helmet seals clicked open one by one. Each click sounded louder than the explosions outside. Jake's hands were covered in blood, but they did not shake. Years of training kept them steady even now, when everything was falling apart. He lifted the helmet away from his head and let it drop to the floor. Princess Zinthara's silver eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stared at him like she was seeing something impossible, something that should not exist. Jake knew what she was seeing. A human face. Brown hair cut short and matted with sweat. Green eyes dulled with pain and exhaustion. Skin that was light brown, marked with scars and stubble. A face that looked nothing like anything she had ever seen before. "What?" she whispered. "Are you?" "Human," Jake said. His real voice was deeper than the modulator had made it, rougher at the edges. "My people are called humans. We come from a planet called Earth, in a star system that your people have not discovered yet." She did not move. She did not speak. She just stared at him with those silver eyes that he had dreamed about for months. Jake tried to sit up straighter, but the pain in his back made him gasp. Blood was soaking through his undersuit now, spreading across the floor of the shuttle. "I know you have questions," he said. "I will answer all of them. But first, I need you to help me stop the bleeding, or I will be dead before I finish explaining." That broke her out of her shock. She moved quickly, opening the shuttle's medical kit and pulling out bandages and healing gel. Her hands trembled as she worked, but she did not hesitate. "Turn around," she said. "Let me see your back." Jake turned as much as he could. He heard her sharp intake of breath when she saw the wound. The plasma had burned through his armor and deep into his flesh. It was bad. He had known it was bad. "This is terrible," she said. "How are you still conscious?" "Humans are stubborn," he managed. "We do not die easily." She applied the healing gel, and Jake felt cold fire spreading across his back. The Volanthi medicine was designed for their species, not his, but it would slow the bleeding. Maybe it would be enough. "You are so small," Zinthara said softly as she worked. Compared to us, compared to the Kethmari, you are tiny." "How did you fight like that?" "I watched you kill dozens of them by yourself." Jake closed his eyes. "We evolved on a dangerous world. Everything on Earth wanted to kill us. Predators, diseases, the weather, each other. We had to become strong to survive. Not strong in our bodies, but strong in our minds. Strong in our will. We learned to keep fighting even when our bodies were broken. We learned to win even when winning was impossible." "That is remarkable," she said. "It is just survival." He winced as she wrapped a bandage around his torso. "On Earth, we have a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. I do not know what a dog is. A small animal, loyal, fierce. They look weak, but they will fight to protect the people they love until their last breath." Zinthara finished bandaging his wounds and moved around to face him. She knelt in front of him, her eyes level with his. She reached out and touched his face, her blue fingers cool against his fevered skin. "You are warm," she said. "Your skin is so different from ours. It does not glow. It does not shimmer. But there is something beautiful about it." Jake did not know what to say. He had imagined this moment 100 times, and in every version, she had looked at him with disgust or fear. He had never imagined this gentle curiosity, this wonder. Why did you hide? She asked. Why does your species pretend not to exist? Because the galaxy is cruel to young races, Jake said. We have only had the ability to travel between stars for 50 years. That is nothing compared to the Volanti, who have been here for millions of years. If your people knew about us, they might see us as a threat. Or worse, as an opportunity. Slaves, soldiers, resources to be used and thrown away. Our face tightened with something that looked like shame. We would not do that. Your empire has died to a dozen species already. I have seen the records. She pulled her hand back. That was different. Those species were aggressive. They threatened us. They were weak and alone and desperate. Just like we would be if anyone found out about us. The shuttle shook as something hit its hull. Outside the windows, Jake could see debris floating through space. The Eternal Grace was dying, torn apart by the Kethmari attack. They were drifting alone in the wreckage. So you are a spy, Zintara said. Her voice was harder now. All this time, you were watching us. Reporting to your people. Yes. Was any of it real? The things you said to me. The way you looked at me. Was that just part of your mission? Jake met her eyes. This was the moment that mattered. He could lie. He could protect himself, maintain the distance that his training demanded. But he was tired of lying. He was tired of hiding. The mission was to observe and report, he said. But you were never part of the mission. You were just you, curious and kind and lonely in a way that I understood. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being a soldier doing his duty and started being someone who would do anything to keep you safe. Her eyes softened. You took a plasma shot from me. You nearly died. I would do it again. Why? Because you see me. He reached up and touched her hand where it rested on her knee. Not the armor. Not the iron shadow. Me. You are the first person in 3 years who has actually seen me. Tears formed in her silver eyes, strange and beautiful, like liquid mercury. I thought I knew you. I thought I understood who you were. But you are something completely different from what I imagined. Is that bad? She was quiet for a long moment. Jake felt his heart pounding, each beat sending pain through his wounded body. If she rejected him now, if she decided that his lies were unforgivable, he would not blame her. He would accept it. It would be what he deserved. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a gesture of intimacy, he realized. Something the Volanti did with people they trusted completely. It is not bad, she said softly. It is confusing and strange and a little bit frightening. But it is not bad. Jake closed his eyes and let himself feel the touch. Her skin was cool and smooth against his, so different from anything human. But it felt right. It felt like something he had been waiting for his whole life. What happens now? She asked. I do not know, he admitted. If we survive this, everything will change. Your people will learn about humans. My people will be exposed. There will be consequences that neither of us can predict. Do you regret it? Taking off your helmet? Jake opened his eyes and looked at her face, inches from his own. At her silver eyes and blue skin, and the tears that were slowly sliding down her cheeks. No, he said. I do not regret anything. She smiled, and even in the middle of wreckage and war and uncertainty, that smile made Jake feel like everything might somehow be okay. Then we will face whatever comes together, she said. You and I, human and Volanti. Spy and princess. That sounds like a terrible idea, Jake said. Probably. Her smile grew wider. But I have always been bad at following the safe path. The shuttle's sensors beeped. Rescue ships were approaching. Volanti cruisers coming to find survivors. In a few minutes, Jake would have to face Lord Vorth and explain why a human had been hiding in their midst. But for now, in this moment, He just sat with the princess and let her hold his hand and did not think about anything except how good it felt to finally be seen. The rescue cruiser found them drifting in the wreckage 12 hours later. By then, Jake had told Zinthara everything. He had talked about Earth, with its blue oceans and green forests and cities that covered whole continents. He had told her about humans, how they loved and fought and built and destroyed. He had explained the secret network of agents spread across the galaxy, watching and waiting for the day when humanity could safely reveal itself. She had listened to every word without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Your people sound extraordinary," she finally said. "To survive so much, to achieve so much in such a short time, and to be so careful, so patient, hiding while you grew strong. It is not what I would have expected from a young species." "We have made many mistakes," Jake said. "We have caused great harm to each other and to our world. But we have also learned. We are still learning. That is more than most civilizations can say." The cruiser's docking clamps locked onto their shuttle, and Jake felt the vibration through the hull. This was it. The moment of truth. Zinthara stood and faced the door. "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, let me speak first." "Your Highness, I should be the one to explain." "No." She turned to look at him, her silver eyes fierce. "You have done enough. You nearly died protecting me. Now it is my turn to protect you." The door opened, and Lord Vorith stepped through with a squad of armed guards. He stopped dead when he saw Jake's face. His scarred features went through a rapid series of expressions: confusion, shock, and then something that might have been rage. "What is this?" Vorith demanded. "What creature is this?" "His name is Jake," Zinthara said, stepping between them. "He is human, a species from a world called Earth, and he saved my life." Vorith's hand went to his weapon. "He has been deceiving us, spying on us. This is an act of war. This is an act of survival," Jake said. He stood slowly, using the wall for support. "My people are young and few. We did not hide because we wanted to harm you. We hid because we were afraid of what you might do to us." "And what would we do?" "The same thing you did to the Kovathi before you needed their metals. The same thing you did to the Sarai before they became useful trading partners. Conquest, enslavement, destruction. The Volanthi do not treat young species kindly." Vorith's jaw tightened, but he did not deny it. He knew the history as well as Jake did. "He fought off 3 full squads of Kethmari by himself," Zinthara said. "I watched him take wounds that would have killed any of our soldiers. He threw himself in front of a plasma bolt meant for me. Whatever else you think of him, he has earned the right to be heard." The old warrior studied Jake with those hard eyes. Jake stood straight despite the pain, meeting his gaze without flinching. He would not show weakness. He would not give them any reason to think humans were easy prey. "Extraordinary," Vorith said at last. "One small creature, and he killed more Kethmari than my entire guard detail." He turned to his soldiers. "Lower your weapons. We are taking him to medical, not the brig." "Lord Vorith," one of the guards protested. "He is a spy. Protocol requires that we detain him. Protocol also requires that we honor those who saved the royal family." Vorith looked at Jake with something new in his eyes. "Not quite respect, but close. I want to know more about these humans. I want to know how they fight." News spread quickly through the Dominion. Within days, everyone knew about the Iron Shadow, who had turned out to be something called a human. The story grew with each telling. Some said he had killed 100 Kethmari. Others said he had taken plasma fire and kept fighting for hours. By the time the story reached the outer worlds, it had become legend. Earth received the news through encrypted channels. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Patterson contacted Jake as soon as she could, her face pale with worry on the screen. "You realize what you have done," she said. "Decades of careful planning, and you blew it all because of a princess." "I know," Jake said. He was sitting in a hospital bed on the Royal Medical Ship, his wounds healing slowly under alien treatment. "I am sorry, Commander. I did not see another way. There is always another way, not one that kept her alive." Nicole was quiet for a moment. Then she sighed. "The Admiral wants to talk to you. He is furious, but also, apparently, impressed. Your biometric data from that fight has been analyzed by every tactician on Earth. They are calling it the single greatest combat performance by any human soldier in history. I was just trying not to die." "Well, you succeeded spectacularly." She paused. "The Volanthi Emperor has requested a diplomatic meeting. He wants to talk to Earth's leaders directly." Jake felt something loosen in his chest. "They are not going to attack us?" "It seems not. Apparently, Lord Vorth convinced him that any species capable of producing soldiers like you would be more valuable as allies than enemies. And the princess, well, she has been very vocal in her support. Zintara visited him every day. She would sit beside his bed and tell him about the debates happening in the Volanthi court. Some nobles wanted to punish Earth for the deception. Others wanted to study humans like laboratory specimens. But more and more were starting to see things differently. "They are impressed by you," she said one evening. "Not just your fighting, but your loyalty. Your willingness to die for someone who was not even your own species. It goes against everything they thought they knew about lesser races." "We are not a lesser race," Jake said. "No." She smiled and took his hand. "You are not." 3 weeks later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Earth's hidden station, watching the approach of a Volanthi diplomatic ship. Princess Zinthara was aboard, along with ambassadors from the Emperor himself. Nicole stood beside him, her arms crossed over her chest. "I still cannot believe this is happening. First contact was supposed to take another century at least. We were supposed to be ready. Maybe we are more ready than we thought. Maybe." She looked at him sideways. "The Admiral has approved your transfer, by the way. You are officially assigned to the diplomatic corps. Liaison to the Volanthi royal family. Convenient." "I thought so." She smiled, just a little. "Try not to start any wars, Jake. No promises." The Volanthi ship docked, and the airlock opened. Zinthara was the first one through. She had changed since he last saw her. She walked differently now, with more confidence, more purpose. Being almost killed had changed her, and being at the center of the biggest diplomatic event in galactic history had changed her even more. But when she saw Jake, standing there in a simple Earth uniform instead of his armor, she smiled the same way she always had. Like he was the only thing in the universe that mattered. "Hello, Jake," she said, double quotes. "Hello, Your Highness." She walked up to him and took his hand. Behind her, the Volanthi ambassadors were staring at everything with barely concealed fascination. They had never seen a human world before. They had never seen humans at all, except for Jake. "Are you ready for this?" Zinthara asked quietly. "Everything is going to change. For your people and mine." Jake thought about the armor he had worn for 3 years. The silence and the secrets and the loneliness. He thought about the blood he had spilled and the pain he had suffered. And he thought about the moment when he had taken off his helmet and let her see his face for the first time. "I have been hiding my whole life," he said. "Hiding who I am, what my people can do. But you taught me something, Zinthara. You showed me that the truth does not have to be something to fear. Sometimes it is the only path forward." She squeezed his hand. "Then let us walk it together." They turned to face the ambassadors and the cameras and the weight of history pressing down on them from all sides. Jake Morrison, the Iron Shadow, the first human to reveal himself to the galaxy. And beside him, Princess Zinthara Velshani, who had looked past the armor and seen the man underneath. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake said, addressing the Volanti delegation in their own language. "Welcome to Earth. We have a lot to talk about." The galaxy would never be the same. But as Jake looked at Zinthara's smile and felt her hand in his, he thought that maybe that was okay. Some changes were worth making.